Good morning everyone, my name is Magdych. We are in Osaka and I'm today here to show you my personal trinity of lenses that I'm using. 20mm 1.8G lens, which is right now on the camera, and I'm shooting this video with the lens. Also, I'm using 55mm Zeiss 1.8, which is an amazing lens. It's relatively cheap, but it's pretty good. And I'm also using 135mm GM lens, which is mostly a portrait lens. I'll be walking around with these lenses, 20mm, 55mm, and 135mm here in Osaka in Dotonbori. I will show you what they can do. I'm shooting 4K 30p on my A7C. It's a full frame sensor, but it applies a slight crop when shooting 30p. You might be asking why I don't choose 24mm GM lens. First of all, 20mm is a little bit cheaper, and according to some MTF charts, it's even sharper than 24mm GM lens. 20mm is a little bit wider than 24mm, and it's a little bit easier to do vlogging. That was my first concern or first idea when I was buying a wide angle lens or ultra wide angle lens. So I didn't go for 24 because I thought I will be vlogging more than I actually do. Also, sometimes I do landscape photography and 20mm is a little bit better. Okay, now let's switch to 55mm and we'll see how it looks, and I will tell you why I like it. Here we go. This is 55mm Zeiss 1.8. I'm shooting at f6.3. And I think it looks very different and very nice. I love the autofocus on this one. It is a very compact, small lens. The price is also not very high. It's not an expensive lens if you compare to G or GM lenses that Sony makes. 50mm GM lens is much more expensive than Zeiss 55mm. GM is about $2,000 and Zeiss is only $1,000 or even less. You can buy used 55mm Zeiss lens for about $500. 55mm Zeiss was my first lens that I bought together with my A7C at the beginning of 2021. So I was choosing rather cheap lens but well performing, so I chose 55mm. I didn't want to go too wide with 24mm. I didn't want to go too tight with 85mm. I decided to choose 55mm. 55mm is amazingly sharp for its price. There is one thing that I don't like about this lens is there is a little bit of chromatic aberration when you're shooting in high contrast situations, mostly in photos. Okay, let's switch to 135 GM lens, my favorite portrait lens, and see how that looks, and I also will tell you why I like that lens. Here we are with 135 lens. This lens is amazingly sharp, also in video and in photo. As you can see, you can get much closer to your subject with this lens. I like this lens for street photography. This lens is pretty expensive, but it's probably one of the best options for portrait photography on Sony mirrorless E-mount. I think it outperforms 85mm. It has better focusing performance and really amazing bokeh at 135 f1.8. And I would usually use it wide open at f1.8 just to have that blurry, buttery bokeh background. I rarely use this lens for video, mostly for photography. It's a rather heavy lens, so I find myself holding the lens itself, not the camera, most of the time when photographing or when making videos with this lens. So definitely keep it in mind that this is not a very light lens like 55 or 20 millimeter. This is definitely my favorite lens among those that I own, 20 millimeter, 55 millimeter, and this one, 135 millimeters. I think this one is the best in overall performance and enjoyability of using it. Thanks everyone for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any thoughts on my personal trinity of the lenses. Thank you very much. See you next time.